apologize for those who came on live yesterday and then I had sound problems. So I do apologize for that. And thank you so much for turning up. Um, so before I start today, I just want to introduce myself briefly. My name is AB Smith. I'm the founder of Appear in Life. I'm a health and wellness coach, and I used to work in HR as a HR professional, and did a lot of traveling around the country to work with managers. Um, Loved it, really loved it, but then my health began to take a toll, which I had for more than 20 years, and so I decided to look at that and found solutions, proven solutions, which I now use to work with my clients. I enjoy that, and so I took a course in aromatherapy and a course in nutrition, and I've done several courses in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and I keep saying employee for EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, better known as tapping, which can be used a lot for stress. I used mine for chronic pain, stress. What else I use it for? Or for my autoimmunity. So I use that to stress because that kind of gets out a lot of things out of you and then helps your body to start doing the job that it's meant to do, which is like healing and keeping it in stasis. So I decided that I'd like to share that with people, and so here I am doing that. Okay, so before I start, I'll share the agenda. So I'll move on to slides, and I'll just be in a little corner at the end of the page. And so I'll start with the agenda and then go into the topic of today, which is stress, managing weight through stress. So, oh my glasses. So I'll start with, okay, I have to move screens to be able to move my slides. Okay, so I've told you a bit about who I am. I'll read my disclaimer. So that's the agenda for today. And an overview of stress, just a brief description of stress. The 6 types of stress, 5 tips, and then a wrap up. So I've spoken to you about who I am, AB. And my disclaimer today is the information given in this webinar is provided as an information and for educational purposes only and should not be used as a substitute from your healthcare provider. It is not a magic button or like popping a pill to get results in any instance. This is not for get a quick fix solution person. What I share requires work, dedication, and commitment on your part. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any healthcare decisions or for guidance if you have any medical conditions. Like I said, I'm a coach and I help you achieve your goals for what you want for yourself. So just a brief chat about what I think stress is. I guess we all have our different definitions, and we all know what stress is. Also the symptoms that elevate stress in us, and if we don't know, it's something that we need to find out so we can work on. Stress to me is what's stress now? Yeah, so we all experience stress at different times, and stress is natural, and stress is actually quite good. Where there's a problem is where there's chronic stress, and a lot of us do have chronic stress. That's because we suffer from something which is called, I think, the boiling frog syndrome, which is where you dump a frog in hot water and it jumps out, and you put the frog in cold water and boil it slowly, and it doesn't realize this is happening. And this is what happens to us in stress. So because stress is so part of our lives in the Western world, we don't realize that certain things are stressful because we're so used to doing it. So we just get on with our day. But it's being able to recognize what's going on in your body and taking control of that. So taking that responsibility and being able to manage the stress. Maybe sometimes stepping out of the situation or taking a different attitude towards the situation. Whatever works for you. And this is something that sometimes some people need help with, and sometimes people can do it on their own. So stress and anxiety always starts in the brain. it signals the body into fight or flight mode or freeze. So the stress hormones are the cortisol and the adrenaline, which increases your blood pressure. So in terms of how the hormones work, it's like in the old days, 1,000 years ago, you'd see a tiger and you'd get stressed out and you'd start running. So the flight, fight, or you might decide to kill the tiger if you've got the right tools to do so. Well, freezing in that occasion is not it's not a good option, but I guess some people might freeze. But today we have stresses like running late for a meeting, running to catch public transport, loss of our keys, so we get stressed out because we're running late. It has exactly the same impact as seeing something dangerous like a tiger. So you have no control of what goes on in your body. So all those things start to happen. Sorry, my phone's going off. My alarm. Oh, I have to put it somewhere else so it doesn't disturb. I do apologize about that. So I guess you can still hear it. I have to take it out of the room because I can't find it. Okay, that's my alarm to give my cat some food, but I already gave her the food. It's all fine. So, so cortisol in your body triggers unwanted weight gain and poor sleep, and also throws off your hormones. So these are so we know that in terms of weight, it's important to be able to manage our stress. So I'll go on to talk about the 6 types of stress. We don't realize that there are different types of stress, and I guess knowing what particular type of stress that we're going through can probably help us to manage the stress. So I decided that I'll break that down. So there's emotional stress. Emotional stress can flood the body with adrenaline and cortisol. As we know, cortisol increases, affects our sleep, affects our hormones, so it can affect everything going on within us. It lowers energy and lowers things like libido, and encourages the joy of life. So being stressed out is not really good for us. It also increases fatigue and increases anxiety and depression. The second one is sleep deprivation stress. Most of us are busy, so we go to bed quite late. Sometimes we have to go to bed late. Sometimes we have to get up early because we have to go somewhere that requires more traveling. Sometimes we sleep less because we have some social events we need to attend to. Whatever the reason, it's necessary sometimes that we have these things, but it's important not to get into sleep debt. So over a long period of time, if we continue this sleep deprivation, it sends us into sleep debt, so that even small stresses can get overwhelming and tip us off our balance. Life becomes a hard slog. It's mentally and emotionally draining for us and can make us eat more, age faster, and hold on to fat. Then the third one is inflammation-induced stress. In the West, our diet is comprised of a lot of foods that are high in sugar, high in salt. We eat a lot of processed foods, drink a lot of coffee to keep us on the go. It's kind of a process cycle. And then we have alcohol at the end of the day to wind down. These are all acidic to the body. And we know that alkalinity is really important. So being aware of these things, so how much we should be taking, how much we're intaking, so to have that balance, so that our body is more in the alkaline state as opposed to being in an acidic state. So that's really important. And then we have chemical stress. So the food additives in a lot of foods, preservatives, numbers. I'm not really aware because as you see, I have classes on, and so reading them, the small print is kind of like a bit difficult for me to kind of read everything. So for me, I prefer to cook from scratch because I know what I'm putting in my food, and not use anything with preservatives or numbers. We need to be aware of these things that we're putting in. And like I've always said, It's not something we can change overnight if we're already in that system, but it's something that we can start to be aware of and start to make the changes gradually. The body is kind to us, so things do happen before we get diagnosed with anything. It's taken 10, 15 years for us to get to that stage. So it's not, to reverse it also takes time, and just being kind to yourself, because if you put stress on yourself, then that increases the upsets your hormones in your body, and then you're back in that cycle of being stressed. So it's important to have compassion for yourself and to have that love for yourself. And then there are chemicals that we put on our skin through our cream, through our makeup. We need to be aware of what's in those things. There are ways you can make your own. I make most of my own because I make my body cream. Obviously, I can't make my own makeup, but I try to use very minimal makeup. And when I do, I try to look at the ingredients in them. For instance, one of the things that I used to use was a lot of Vaseline, and for my lips in the winter when it's dry, and Vaseline is actually petroleum jelly, and so basically we put in petrol on our skin. Skin is our largest organ, so it gets through the internal. Things get to our internal organs through our skin, and also what we smell in terms of the products that we use for cleaning. But there are natural ways that you can have your cleaning products which have exactly the same effect as those chemicals. So being aware of those things. The smell, because you breathe them in and they affect your organs and they'll upset your whole system. It takes your body out of homeostasis. Also, the toothpaste we use, mouthwash, they're very important too. And then moving on to dietary stress. Dietary stress, like things like skipping meals, that lowers, has an effect on our sugar levels, has an effect on different things. So it might increase cravings, which sets us into eating things that are not right for us. So it's very important about having regular meals. It works differently for different people. Some people probably have to eat more regularly than others. I know when I started, I used to have to eat about 6 times a day. And I said all this, now eating twice a day is fine for me. So it just depends on where you're at and your body type. So avoiding fats, good fats and bad fats. So you might try to avoid fats completely, which is probably not good because you do need some percentage of fats in you, good fats, and find out what those fats are. Eating carbs without eating protein. You need the three types of that. So you need the carbs, the proteins, and the fats. The percentage will depend on your body type. That's something that you can do. There are tools out there that can help you find out what your body type is and what type of diet works for you. We tend to think that when there's a particular diet we follow it, no, it might work for one person and not work for the other person. That's because we all have different body types, different things that work for us. So it's important to know that. So an intense diet can cause stress on our metabolism. So that's something we need to recognize. It's always best to go like gradually, lose gradually. And from my experience, I find that when you're eating the right food, you probably don't even need to do that. You just gravitate to your natural weight of what you should be. We're all different shapes and sizes, and it just depends on what you really feel comfortable with, and you will find that you do feel comfortable with what's your natural once you get there. Also, and the sixth type of stress is the physical stress. Some people have more manual jobs than others. Obviously, if you have a sedentary job, doing a lot of exercise might not be too bad for you. But if you have a job that's more manual, like maybe a nurse who does a lot of lifting, a lot of walking, or a teacher who does a lot of standing, they might need lighter exercise. So it's being aware of that, because too much stress in terms of physical can cause stress on the body. Um, the advice is light or medium type stress is probably what's best. Obviously, if you're doing a marathon, you probably need to go into more extensive stress, which is okay for a short period of time. But if you continue to do it for a long period of time, it stresses out the body, and then other things start to happen. So, what are my 5 tips? Tip number 1 is getting back to your roots, getting in touch with nature, going out there, grounding, taking your shoes off on the grass, just walking barefoot for a short period of time. Obviously, it's more difficult in the winter, but if you can do it, it's ideal. And there are other ways of grounding, just breathing the air, hugging a tree, just connecting with nature, having that time early in the mornings, any time of the day, but I prefer mine first thing in the morning when it's really, really quiet. That's when I prefer to do um, my grounding. So, and then tip number 2 is love your kitchen. So this is foods where we're looking at more alkaline foods as opposed to acidic foods. Alkalinity combats inflation and bloating. We know that most disease comes from an inflamed body. The inflammation also sets the organs out of place. So you also have, maybe you might develop things like chronic back pain, like I had. I mean, obviously it's more complex than that, but every little helps in every way. Also, with bloating, I used to have a lot of bloating, and when I changed my diet, I found that I don't have any bloating at all now, which is because I had it for years. I kind of thought, oh gosh, this is really natural. There's nothing I can do about this. I have to take medication, but I found out I don't really have to now. Don't get any bloating. Obviously, sometimes I eat stuff that I'm not supposed to eat that doesn't agree with me, and then that happens, and then I kind of stop. I limit it, and having an alkaline body leads to weight loss. Surprising how much you don't really have to do much to lose weight, because it just like comes up naturally. And then, oh yeah, before I go into that, so in terms of having an alkaline diet and an acidic diet, when you make poor food choices, you have things like high blood sugar, increased weight, increased inflammation that we talked about, increased cortisol, increased amygdala activity. That's the flight or fright thing that goes on in our bodies and face. So the fear and the stress that happens, impulsivity, lower serotonin activity, and lower prefrontal cortex activity. So and yeah, so that's the decision making, poor decision making with that. So getting back to our roots. Okay, so sleep, artificial light. Artificial light, natural light is always best. Artificial light interferes with our brain activity. So an hour before we go to bed, it's best to get into like a more dim lit room. Computers and phones should be off or not looked at least an hour before going to bed. Don't know if my dog is my cat coming in. So artificial light is not good. So more blue light. Also, like things like having a bath before bed. Essential oils, lavender is a good one to help you sleep, to calm your nerves down. They also have there's also night yoga that you can do that helps the body relax to be able to sleep. So finding things that help you to relax, to have good sleep. And in terms of sleep, it's very important to go to bed about the same time every day and wake up about the same time every day, roughly about the same time every day. And this includes weekends. And the reason for this is because of your circadian rhythm. When you have different times, it confuses your brain and then it confuses your circadian rhythm. So when you might have poor sleeping and you keep waking up, or you might think you're sleeping, but the brain is actually still very active, and so you're not having good sleep. So the things that can come up from poor sleep again is almost the same as the food, impulsivity, poor food choices, okay, which will affect your weight, high blood pressure, um, high weight, increased weight, increased inflammation, increased cortisol, increased amygdala activity, fight or flight, decreased prefrontal cortex activity, which is poor decision making. I was going to say something else about food, about sleep. Oh, I just escaped my memory. Okay, so going to tip number 4 And body motion stays in motion, so gentle exercise, it's always good for you. Choosing an exercise that you enjoy, is good. Um, for me, going to the gym doesn't work. For some people, it does work, but light to moderate exercise is good. Extensive high exercise is over a prolonged period is not very causes stress on the body. If you are somebody who wanted to lose weight, high impact intensive training is good, which you can do for about half an hour. They've got stuff on YouTube, and these are just short bursts of quick exercises. You do that half an hour a day, and that has been proven to work for those who want to lose weight. Normal exercise, yeah, after a while your body gets into um, a certain state, and then it doesn't work anymore. So high impact training is what's good if you want to lose weight. But generally, even walking is good, gardening is good. Yeah, something I forgot to say about the body types. We've got three body types: the polar type, variable type, and equatorial type body. The other names people give to it, and that kind of tells you. Like for instance, I'm equatorial type body, which means I need 10% fat, 70% carbohydrates, and 20% protein. So that's much of carbohydrate. Whereas the polar type needs only 55% carbohydrates, 45% protein, and 20% fats or oils. And when we say carbohydrates, it's not processed with this. There's good carbohydrates that's not got like greens. There's some greens that are carbohydrates and they're good. So you need to find out what carbohydrates work. My cat's running about. So tip number 5, getting the quiet time. So quiet time, meditation. We know meditation is good for high blood pressure, it's good for cardiovascular issue, enhances insulin resistance, helps the body calm down, not less stressed. And if you're not stressed out, cortisol levels are not high, your weight is doesn't. So that's good for weight management. That's important. EFT, which is tapping, helps for negative emotions. It's really, really good for weight managing. Really, really good for stress. I can say that firsthand. Know a lot of people who've used that. I've used that personally. Really works, EFT, and it's quite enjoyable because it helps you to understand yourself and understand what's going on within. So that's it on my 5 tips. Mindfulness, yeah, mindfulness. I used mindfulness a lot for pain. That helps control the pain. Really good techniques, and also really good for stress. They're also really good for understanding who you are, what you're all about, just understanding your higher self. So really good technique to use. And again, this is something that you can get somebody to work with to help you, because sometimes it's difficult to do things on your own and you should be consistent. You need that buddy, or you need just the motivation from somebody else. So if you've got any questions, you can always send me an email, you can drop comments in the comments section. And I've got my information details up here for you. I will also be sending my 14 symptoms on recognizing the stresses within you. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll come off. My mouse isn't working. I don't know why. Oh, that's strange. Okay, great. Oh, it stopped now. Okay. Yeah, so I'm back. I just haven't had much luck with my technology this month. I don't normally have this much of a problem. It's usually fine. Well, anyway, until next month, and I have another subject. If you've got any subjects you want me to address, you can always send me a message and I'll look into that. And until next time, it's bye for now, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the week.